The doors of the repair bay exploded inward with a sound like thunder. Metal twisted and groaned as a massive figure pushed through, too large for the entrance meant for normal ships and normal people. Timon barely noticed the damage he caused. His mind held only one thought, one desperate need that burned hotter than the fire in his chest. His mate was dying. Yuna lay cradled in his arms, her body so much smaller than his own but no less magnificent. Once her scales had shimmered like moonlight on water, silver and blue and beautiful enough to make stars jealous. Now those scales looked dull, lifeless. The soft glow that should pulse beneath her skin flickered like a candle in the wind. Her breathing came in shallow gasps that hurt him to hear. Timon roared, the sound shaking dust from the ceiling. His golden eyes blazed as he searched the cluttered workshop. Machinery hung from every surface. Tools he did not recognize covered workbenches. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. This place looked nothing like the clean, sterile medical bays of his people. It looked like chaos. "I need help." His voice boomed through the space, raw with fear and fury. "Someone help her!" Other beings in the station scattered at his presence. They knew what the Drakari were. Everyone in the galaxy knew. The great dragon people, warriors and fleet commanders, apex predators who could tear through ship hulls with their claws and breathe fire hot enough to melt steel. A desperate Drakari was death waiting to happen, but Timon did not care about their fear. He only cared that his mate's light was fading, and he could do nothing to stop it. A figure emerged from beneath a half-dismantled ship engine. The man stood perhaps 6 feet tall, tiny compared to Timon's 9-foot frame. He wore a stained jumpsuit covered in grease and oil. His dark hair stuck up at odd angles. He looked completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, completely human. The human wiped his hands on a dirty rag and looked up at Timon without fear. His eyes moved from the massive dragon warrior to the dying female in his arms. Something changed in his expression then. Something focused and intent. "What's her fuel mixture ratio?" the human asked. Timon stared at him. The question made no sense. "What? She is not a machine?" "She is my mate, my bonded one. She is dying and you ask about her fuel ratio," the human repeated calmly. "How does her body process energy? What does she eat? How often does her internal temperature spike? When did her bioluminescence start failing?" The strange questions cut through Timon's panic like a blade through smoke. He found himself answering almost against his will, describing symptoms he had watched develop over months. The way Yuna's glow dimmed first in the morning, how her body temperature dropped 10 degrees below normal, the strange stuttering in her heartbeat that no doctor could explain. The human listened, nodding slowly. His eyes never left Yuna's still form. When Timon finished, the human spoke words that should have been impossible. "Her quantum core is degrading. Cascade failure in the primary matrices. If we do nothing, she has maybe 6 hours. Timon's voice caught. "You know what is wrong?" "Yeah." The human moved closer, reaching toward Yuna. Timon's instincts screamed at him to pull away to protect his mate from this stranger's touch. But he held still. "May I examine her?" Every warrior tradition, every cultural law of his people said no. The core was sacred. The core held their essence, their memories, their very souls. To allow another to touch it was the ultimate violation. The Drakari barely allowed their own doctors near their cores, and even then only in the most desperate circumstances. But Yuna was dying. The best doctors in the galaxy had declared her beyond saving. They said her condition was a mystery, untreatable, terminal. They said to make her comfortable and prepare for the end. And this strange human mechanic looked at his dying mate like she was a puzzle he could solve. "Please," Timon heard himself say. The word felt foreign in his mouth. Drakari warriors did not beg. But for Yuna, he would do anything. "Please help her," the human nodded. "Put her on the main table. Carefully." Timon laid Yuna on the indicated surface with a gentleness that seemed impossible for his massive clawed hands. He stood back, watching as the human began pulling equipment from various places around the workshop. Scanners that hummed with energy, probes thin as hair, devices that glowed with soft light. "My name is Hajin," the human said as he worked, setting up his equipment around Yuna's still form. "I fix things. Ships, engines, life support systems, whatever people bring me. Though I have to say you're my first Drakari patient." "How do you know what is wrong with her?" Timon demanded. "Our own doctors, the finest medical minds in the galaxy. They could not identify her illness." Hajin activated a scanner, and blue light washed over Yuna's body. because they were looking at her as a biological entity. But your people aren't purely biological, are they? You're hybrids, part organic, part something else, part quantum mechanical system. That is impossible. Is it? Hajin pointed at the scanner display. Taman could not read the symbols, but he saw the patterns, the way energy flowed through Yuna's body in ways that looked almost like circuitry. Your bioluminescence isn't bioluminescence at all. It's contained plasma generation. Your flight isn't just wings and muscle. You manipulate gravitational fields. And that thing you call a soul? That's a quantum processor housed in a crystalline matrix in your chest. Taman felt the world tilt beneath his feet. You speak madness, do I? Hajin looked at him directly. Tell me, when you bonded with Yuna, what did it feel like? Describe it in mechanical terms. We... Taman struggled for words. Our cores synchronized. I could feel her thoughts, her emotions. Even across vast distances, I know when she is happy or sad or in danger. Quantum entanglement, Hajin said simply. Your cores are linked at the quantum level. It's actually beautiful, from an engineering perspective. Whoever designed your species was a genius. No one designed us. We evolved naturally. Hajin shrugged, not arguing the point. Either way, right now Yuna's core is failing. The cascade has already begun. In 6 hours, maybe less, total coherence loss, which in biological terms means death. He paused, his hands hovering over his tools. But I think I can fix it. Hope flared in Taman's chest, painful and bright. You can save her? Maybe, probably. But I need to access her core directly. I need to basically rebuild parts of her crystalline matrix. And that means... Hajin looked at Taman seriously. You need to understand what I am asking. I will be touching the most intimate part of her being. I will see her memories, feel her emotions. There is no way to repair the core without interfacing with it completely. Every instinct in Taman's body screamed refusal. This was wrong. This violated everything he knew, everything he believed. To let an alien, a human, touch Yuna's very essence. But the alternative was watching her die. Taman looked at his mate, so still on the table. He thought of her laughter, the way she teased him after battles. He remembered the day they bonded, how the universe had seemed to expand to include both of them. He thought of a future without her, and the emptiness of that thought was worse than any physical pain. He met Hajin's eyes. The human waited patiently, not pushing, not demanding, just ready to help if allowed. Save her, Taman said, his voice rough. Do whatever you must. Just save her. I will, Hajin promised. Then he smiled slightly. Though fair warning, this is going to be weird for both of us. He rolled up his sleeves and began to work. Part 2. The workshop hummed with energy as Hajin worked. Taman watched every movement, every careful touch, his claws leaving deep grooves in the metal floor beneath his feet. He could not help it. Every warrior instinct demanded he protect his mate, but he had given permission for this. He had to trust this strange human mechanic. Hajin spoke constantly as he worked, his voice calm and steady. Okay, Yuna, let's see what we're dealing with. Core temperature at 42% of optimal. That's not good. Quantum coherence down to 37%. Yeah, I see the problem now. What do you see? Taman moved closer despite himself. Hajin gestured to a screen showing patterns that looked like fractured crystal. Someone tried to repair this before. See these sections? The work is sloppy. They treated it like biological tissue, trying to stimulate regrowth. But crystalline matrices don't regrow. They have to be rebuilt atom by atom with perfect alignment. Our best doctors worked on her, Taman said defensively. I'm sure they did their best. Hajin's voice held no judgment, but they were using the wrong approach. It's like trying to fix a broken computer by giving it medicine. The problem isn't that your doctors aren't skilled. The problem is they don't understand what they're actually fixing. Other humans began entering the workshop. Taman tensed at first, but they showed no fear of his presence. A woman with silver neural implants visible at her temples approached Hajin's side. Need help with the diagnostics? She asked. Thanks, Minji. Can you calibrate the quantum scanner for crystalline matrices? We need precision down to the atomic level. Minji moved to a nearby console without hesitation. Her fingers flew over controls as streams of data appeared on screens. Core degradation is worse than I thought. Hajin, the cascade is accelerating, I know. That's why we're not waiting. Hajin pulled out a tool that looked like a cross between a welding torch and a surgical instrument. Taman, I need to ask you something. Did anything unusual happen before Yuna got sick? Any attacks, any strange encounters? Taman thought back. We were on patrol near the border systems. There was a ship unmarked. It fired on us. We destroyed it easily, but Yuna took a direct hit. She said she was fine. Where did the shot hit? Her chest. But her scales were barely scratched. Drakari armor is nearly impenetrable. Hajin zoomed in on a section of the scan. His expression darkened. The shot wasn't meant to penetrate. Look at this damage pattern. This isn't random degradation. Someone shot her with a weapon specifically designed to damage Drakari cores. The temperature in the workshop rose as flames licked at Taman's jaws. His wings flared, knocking over equipment. Someone tried to kill her? Who would dare? Taman! Hajin's voice cut through his rage, sharp and commanding. The small human did not even flinch as fire danced near his face. Right now, being angry doesn't help her. You can rage later. You can hunt down whoever did this later, but right now she needs you calm. Can you do that? The simple question shocked Taman back to control. He forced his flames down, his wings folding tight against his back. Yes, I can do that. Good. Hajin returned to his work. Now I need to know about your bond. How does it work? Be specific. Talking about the bond with an outsider felt wrong, but Taman pushed past that feeling. He explained how Drakari cores synchronized during the bonding ceremony, how they shared emotions and thoughts across any distance, how when one mate died, the other often followed because their core could not maintain stability alone. Hajin listened intently, occasionally stopping to make adjustments to his equipment. So your cores are entangled. That actually makes this easier. Minji, I'm going to need to use Taman's core as a template. What? Taman and Minji spoke simultaneously. Think about it, Hajin explained. Yuna's core is damaged, but Taman's is healthy and perfectly entangled with hers. I can use his core structure as a blueprint to rebuild hers. It's like having the original architectural plans for a building you're trying to repair. That would require interfacing Taman directly with your systems, Minji said slowly. Hajin, we've never done anything like that. The feedback could... I know the risks. Hajin looked at Taman. This is going to be uncomfortable. I'll need to connect you to my repair systems. You'll feel me accessing your core, reading its structure. It's going to be invasive and strange and possibly painful. Will it save Yuna? It gives us the best chance. Then do it. A young human boy, perhaps 16 years old, hurried over with cables and connection ports. Got the interface equipment, Hajin. Thanks, Do-hyun. Hajin took the equipment and approached Taman. I need you to expose your chest. The connection has to be direct. Taman pulled aside the armored plating he wore. Beneath his scales in the center of his massive chest, a faint glow pulsed. His core, the seat of his consciousness, his memories, everything that made him who he was. Hajin attached the interface with surprising gentleness. This is going to feel very weird. Try not to panic, ready? Do it. When Hajin activated the connection, Taman gasped. It felt like ice water flooding his veins, like electricity dancing along his nerves. He could feel something foreign touching his mind, curious and careful. The sensation was intimate beyond anything he had experienced except with Yuna. A human mind brushed against his consciousness. Small and fragile compared to Drakari thoughts, but bright with intelligence and focus. Hajin's presence felt like careful fingers examining a priceless artifact, respectful and precise. Sorry, Hajin muttered, his voice strained. Didn't expect it to be this intense. Blood began trickling from Hajin's nose. Minji noticed immediately. Hajin, your neural patterns are spiking. You're pushing too hard. I'm fine. But his hands trembled as he worked. I just need. Give me a second to adjust. Taman felt what Hajin experienced. The weight of centuries of memories, emotions that burned hotter than human feelings, thoughts that processed in quantum states, existing in multiple possibilities simultaneously. It should have destroyed the human's fragile mind. Instead, Hajin made a joke. Well, that's different, the mechanic said, even as more blood dripped from his nose. Okay, I see the pattern now. Your core architecture is beautiful, by the way. Whoever designed this was showing off. Despite everything, Taman felt a flicker of amusement. This human was connected to his very soul, experiencing the full weight of Drakari consciousness, and his response was to compliment the engineering. I have the template, Hajin announced. Minji, start the nano-assemblers. We're rebuilding her crystalline matrix section by section. This is going to take a while. Hours passed. Taman stayed connected. feeling strange sensations as Hajin used his core as a reference. The human worked with incredible focus, rebuilding Yuna's damaged matrices crystal by crystal. Minji assisted with calculations and adjustments. Doyen managed power flow from the station itself. An elderly woman entered carrying a tray with drinks and food. She placed a cup in Taemin's massive claws without hesitation. "Drink," she commanded. "You need to maintain your strength." "I am not hungry. I don't care. Drink anyway. I'm Baram, and in my kitchen everyone eats." She turned to Hajin. "You too. Don't think I don't see you skipping meals." "Yes, ma'am," Hajin said automatically, grabbing a cup without looking up from his work. Taemin sipped the bitter liquid and felt warmth spread through him. These humans treated his presence like it was normal. They did not fear him. They did not treat him like a monster or a threat. They simply helped, all of them working together with a coordination that seemed impossible for beings who barely knew each other. "Hajin," Minji called out suddenly. Her coherence is increasing. 42%, 45, it's working. Keep it steady. We're not done yet." Hajin's voice was rough with exhaustion, but he did not stop. His hands remained steady even as his face grew pale. "Just a little more, Yuna, hold on." Taemin felt the moment everything changed. Through his connection to Hajin, through his bond with Yuna, he felt her core suddenly stabilize. The cascade stopped. The degradation reversed. Crystal matrices locked into perfect alignment, and Yuna's eyes opened. Light exploded through the workshop. Her bioluminescent markings blazed brighter than Taemin had seen in years. Her internal fire ignited, warming the entire bay. She looked around, confused and weak but alive. Then she found Taemin with her gaze, and their bond sang. Part 3. Taemin rushed to Yuna's side the moment Hajin disconnected the interface. His mate was weak, trembling, but her eyes held clarity he had not seen in months. Their bond hummed between them, stronger and clearer than he remembered. Through it, he felt her confusion, her wonder, and her overwhelming relief. "What happened?" Yuna's voice was soft, but it filled Taemin with more joy than he could express. "I was dying. I felt myself fading. But now, a human saved you," Taemin said simply. He turned to where Hajin slumped against his workbench, exhausted and still wiping blood from his nose. "This mechanic did what all our doctors could not." Yuna followed his gaze to the small, grease-stained human. Her eyes widened as she truly saw him for the first time. Then she did something Taemin had never seen a Drakari do. She lowered her head in deep respect to a being not of their species. Words formed directly in their minds, transmitted through the Drakari way of deep communication. "You touched my soul, little human. You held my entire being in your careful hands and gave it back to me. I have no words for such a debt, but I will spend my life trying to honor it." Hajin looked uncomfortable with the praise. He waved one hand dismissively. "Just doing my job. Though I have to admit that was one of the more interesting repairs I've done." It was not just a repair. Yuna's voice grew stronger as her core fully stabilized. "I felt you inside my consciousness. You were gentle, respectful. You could have seen every secret, every private memory, but you only looked at what you needed to fix. That took honor as much as skill." Minji approached with a medical scanner. "Hajin, you need to rest. The neural feedback from that connection was massive. You're lucky you don't have permanent damage." "I'm fine. You're bleeding from your nose and your hands are shaking." I said I'm fine. But Hajin accepted the chair Do-hyun pushed toward him, sitting heavily. "Besides, we're not done. I found something during the repair." The mood in the workshop shifted. Taemin felt tension crawl up his spine. "What did you find?" Hajin pulled up data on his main screen. The patterns meant nothing to Taemin, but he saw Minji's expression change as she studied them. "This damage wasn't accidental," Hajin said. "The weapon that hit Yuna was specifically designed to target Drakari cores. It delivers a quantum pulse that disrupts crystalline matrices. Very sophisticated, very targeted. Many species have weapons designed to fight us," Taemin said. "We are warriors. We make enemies. True, but this weapon is Drakari in origin." The temperature in the workshop spiked again. Yuna rose from the table despite her weakness, her eyes blazing. "Impossible. No Drakari would create such a weapon. To attack another's core is the greatest taboo. I'm just telling you what the data shows." Hajin brought up more information. "See this quantum signature? It's unique to Drakari technology. Whoever made this weapon knew exactly how your cores work, and they knew how to damage them in a way that would look like natural degradation. Taman and Yuna exchanged glances. Through their bond, they shared thoughts too fast for words. Memories surfaced, pieces of a puzzle they had not realized they were solving. "Tell them," Yuna said aloud. Taman struggled with where to begin. 3 months before Yuna was attacked, we discovered something. We were investigating strange energy readings near an abandoned station. What we found was a hidden facility. It was old, very old, but still functional. "What kind of facility?" Minji asked. "A research laboratory," Yuna continued, "filled with data about our species, our origin, our true nature." She looked at Hajin. "Everything you said about us being hybrids, being part quantum mechanical, all of that was documented there. But it was hidden, locked away. The data said we were created," Taman added, "engineered by an ancient civilization as guardians. We were meant to bridge the gap between biological and technological life. But something happened. Our creators vanished and we forgot what we were." Hajin leaned forward, interested despite his exhaustion. "Let me guess. You tried to report this to your authorities?" "We took the data to the High Council," Yuna confirmed. "We thought they would want to know the truth about our people. Instead, they ordered the facility destroyed. They told us the information was corrupted, unreliable, dangerous to share." "But you didn't believe them," Minji said. "No." Taman's voice was hard. "We began investigating further. We found evidence that the Council has known the truth for centuries. They've been suppressing it, keeping our people ignorant of their own nature. They control all medical treatment for core issues. They keep us dependent on their healers." "And you were going to expose them," Hajin finished. "So they tried to kill you in a way that would look natural." The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. The unmarked ship, the targeted attack, the weapon designed to cause cascade failure that would be diagnosed as random degradation. If Yuna had died, Taman would have likely followed due to their bond. 2 problematic warriors eliminated with no evidence of murder. "We have to go back," Taman said suddenly. "We have to warn our people. The Council cannot be allowed to continue this deception." "With what proof?" Yuna asked bitterly. "The facility is destroyed. The data we recovered is gone, lost when our ship was damaged. They will simply deny everything." "I have proof," Hajin said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at him. The mechanic gestured to his screens. "When I was repairing Yuna's core, I recovered data from her damaged matrices. Quantum storage is funny like that. Even when it seems destroyed, fragments remain. I found memory files, ancient files buried deep in her core. They contain information about your species' creation, the original design specifications." "How is that possible?" Yuna breathed. "Best guess? The information is encoded in every Drakari core. Part of your base programming. It's been there all along, but dormant. The cascade failure actually exposed it when other systems shut down." Hajin smiled slightly. "I made copies. Full documentation of your hybrid nature, your original purpose, everything." Hope flared in Taman's chest. "You would give this to us? Help us expose the Council?" "Why wouldn't I? It's your history. Your truth. You deserve to know it." Hajin stood, swaying slightly. Do-hyun quickly moved to support him. "Besides, I don't like people who think they can control others through ignorance. Kind of goes against everything I believe in." Borum pushed forward with more of her bitter drinks. "You're not going anywhere until you've rested." "Any of you?" "I don't care if you're dragons or humans or whatever. Nobody does revolution on an empty stomach." Despite the tension, Taman felt his mouth twitch in what might have been a smile. These humans were remarkable. They faced down warrior dragons, exposed government conspiracies, and performed medical miracles. And through it all, they worried about whether everyone had eaten enough. "There's another problem," Minji said, looking at her displays. "Hajin, look at this. I've been analyzing the scan data from other Drakari ships that docked here over the past year. Just routine background scans we take of everyone. Do you see the pattern?" Hajin moved to her console, studied the information, and his expression grew grim. "They all show early signs of core degradation." "What?" Yuna moved to look as well, moving more steadily now as her strength returned. "But that would mean—" "It's not random," Hajin said. "Look at the progression rate. This is systemic. Every Drakari shows signs of slow degradation over time. It's not a disease. It's more like neglect. Like machines that are never properly maintained." Taman felt cold despite the warmth of his internal fire. How many? How many of our people are affected?
If this pattern holds?
Hajin's voice was gentle but firm. All of them. Every Drakari slowly degrades over their lifetime. Most die from what you probably call natural causes before it becomes critical. But some like Yuna degrade faster. Maybe genetic variation. Maybe environmental factors. Either way, it's treatable. It's just that no one knows how to treat it because no one understands what you actually are. The implications were staggering. Their entire species was slowly failing because they had forgotten how to maintain themselves. The High Council kept them ignorant, kept them dependent, and let them die rather than reveal the truth. We cannot let this continue, Yuna said, her voice ringing with authority. Our people must know. They must learn to understand their own nature. Agreed, Taman said. But how? The Council controls everything. Communication networks, medical facilities, military command. We are just two warriors against an entire power structure. Hajin smiled, the expression tired but determined. Then I guess we need to change the power structure. Good thing I'm pretty good at fixing broken systems. He pulled up a new display showing communication networks and data pathways. Here's what we're going to do. As the human mechanic outlined his plan, Taman felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. Real, solid hope that they could make a difference. And it all started because one stubborn human refused to accept that anything was truly broken. Part 4. 3 months passed, like the blink of an eye and the slow crawl of eternity all at once. The small repair bay on the Broken Wing station transformed into something nobody had planned, but everyone needed. Word spread through the underground networks of the Terran frontier in whispers and encrypted messages. There was a place where miracles happened, a place where a human mechanic could fix what Drakari doctors declared impossible. The first to arrive came in secret, their ships cloaked and their identities hidden. They were warriors who felt their cores failing, who had been told to prepare for death. They came with desperation and suspicion in equal measure. They did not trust humans. They did not trust that this rumor could be real, but they were dying and they had no other options. Hajin treated each one the same way he treated Yuna. With respect. With patience. With steady hands and a stubborn refusal to accept that anything was truly broken. And one by one they were healed. Each healed Drakari learned the truth about their nature, about the quantum cores that powered their existence, about the hybrid biology that their ancestors had designed, about the High Council that had hidden this knowledge for generations, and each one faced the same choice that Taman and Yuna had faced: return to ignorance or fight for change. Most chose to fight. The movement grew. They called themselves the Awakened, and their numbers swelled from dozens to hundreds. Hajin's small workshop expanded into connected bays and borrowed spaces. More humans arrived too, drawn by rumors of impossible work being done on the frontier. Minji recruited engineers from across human space. Do-hyun, who proved to have a natural gift for understanding quantum mechanics, began training others. Borum's small mess hall grew into a full cafeteria that somehow managed to feed both humans and dragons without anyone going hungry. New faces joined the cause. Yunji arrived, a xenobiologist who had been fired from every corporate position she held for suggesting that alien biology and human engineering were not as separate as everyone claimed. She took one look at Hajin's work and immediately understood what he was doing. You are bridging disciplines that everyone says cannot be bridged, she told him, her eyes shining with excitement. This is revolutionary. Kyung came next, a former military engineer who had refused to weaponize his medical technologies. He brought knowledge of advanced scanning systems and gentle hands that proved perfect for the delicate work of core repair. Then Sora arrived. She was barely 15 years old, a genius who had run away from an academy that tried to force her brilliance into narrow channels. She took one look at the quantum equations governing Drakari cores and began solving problems that had stumped adults for weeks. It's obvious, she said when Minji expressed amazement at her work. You just have to think in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Isn't that normal? The workshop became something remarkable. Humans and Drakari working side by side, learning from each other, building something new. The dragons taught the humans about their culture, their history, their way of experiencing the universe through quantum-linked consciousness. The humans taught the dragons about engineering, about system maintenance, about seeing problems without the weight of tradition blinding them. But the Drakari High Council could not ignore what was happening forever. The first agents came quietly, trying to infiltrate and gather information. Taman, who had returned to the station to help coordinate the awakened, caught them easily. His warrior training made him alert to threats. Then the council sent assassins, professional killers who tried to eliminate Hajin and destroy his research. They failed, partly because Taman and the other awakened warriors protected the station, partly because Do-hyun proved surprisingly good at security systems, and partly because the assassins found themselves facing humans who fought with tactics that made no sense, but somehow worked anyway. Finally, the council sent a fleet. Taman stood in the main bay when the ships arrived. Reading the display that showed dozens of Drakari warships surrounding the station, his heart sank. He recognized the command vessel. He knew who led this fleet. They sent Kangman, he told Yuna quietly. The Golden Death himself. Yuna's expression was grim. He is the council's most loyal commander, and one of the most powerful warriors alive. The communication channel opened. A voice like grinding mountains filled the bay. Attention, inhabitants of this station. This is Fleet Commander Kangman of the High Council Authority. You are harboring traitors to the Drakari people. You are practicing illegal medicine without authorization, and you are spreading dangerous propaganda that threatens social stability. Hajin wiped his hands on his ever-present rag and approached the communication console. Yeah, this is Hajin. Can I help you? You are the human mechanic? That's me. Though I prefer to think of myself as a problem solver. You have corrupted our people with your primitive technology. You have violated our most sacred laws by touching Drakari cores. Your core is failing, Hajin interrupted. Silence fell over the channel. In the background, Taman could hear confused murmurs from Kangman's crew. Hajin continued, his voice gentle but firm. About 37% coherence loss in your primary matrices. You are covering it well, and you have probably been to council healers a dozen times, but they cannot fix it, can they? They can only slow it down. Tell me, Commander Kangman, how long did they give you? 1 year? 2? The silence stretched longer. When Kangman spoke again, his voice had changed. The absolute certainty was gone, replaced by something that might have been fear. How do you know this? Because I have repaired 73 Drakari cores. Every single one showed signs of long-term degradation. It is not a disease, Commander. It is systemic. The Council knows your people are hybrid entities, part biological and part quantum mechanical, but they have never understood the engineering side. They treat symptoms, not causes. They keep you dependent. You lie. Do I? Look at your own medical records. Really look at them. Every time you visit a council healer, they do something that makes you feel better for a while. Then the symptoms come back, worse than before. They are not healing you. They are managing your decline. Taman watched the displays, seeing the fleet formation waver slightly. Kangman was not responding immediately, which meant he was thinking, considering, doubting. I can prove it, Hajin added. Let me scan you from here. Just a simple diagnostic scan. If I am wrong, you can destroy this station and everyone in it. But if I am right, he paused. If I am right, Commander, then you need to ask yourself why the Council never told you the truth. Long seconds passed. Taman could imagine the war happening in Kangman's mind. Everything he had been taught said to refuse, to attack, to eliminate this threat. But the fear of death, the hope of healing, those were powerful forces. Perform your scan, Kangman said finally. Hajin nodded to Minji, who activated their long-range diagnostic systems. Energy washed across space, harmless but revealing. Data flooded the screens. Yunji whistled softly. He is not just failing. He is in active cascade, maybe 3 months before total coherence loss. Worse than I thought, Hajin muttered. He opened the channel again. Commander Kangman, your cascade has already begun. You are dying. Slower than Yuna was, but dying nonetheless. At current progression, you have perhaps 3 months. The Council healers cannot stop it. They can barely slow it. But I can fix it. Why would you help me? I came here to destroy you. Because fixing things is what I do. Because every person, every being deserves a chance to live. And because, Hajin smiled slightly, because I think you are starting to realize that the Council has been lying to you about more than just medical treatment. The fleet hung in space, weapons still armed but not firing. Taman could sense the confusion among the crews. This was not how things were supposed to go. They had come for a simple mission, destroy the traitors and restore order. Instead, their commander was learning he had been betrayed by those he served. If I come to your station, Kangman said slowly, what guarantee do I have that this is not a trap? None, Hajin admitted. You will have to trust me. Just like Taman trusted me when he brought Yuna here. Just like every Drakari who has come seeking help has had to trust a human mechanic they never met before. More silence. Then, to everyone's shock, a smaller ship detached from the command vessel and began approaching the station. I am coming alone, Kangman announced. My fleet has orders to destroy the station if I am harmed. Fair enough, Hajin said. Bay 3 is open. Come on in, Commander. Let's see about fixing you. As the massive golden dragon entered the workshop 30 minutes later, Taman saw the same war of emotions he had felt months ago. Fear, pride, desperation, hope. Kangman was perhaps even larger than Taman. His scales like burnished gold, his presence commanding absolute attention. But when Hajin approached him with nothing but a welcoming smile and an outstretched hand, the mighty fleet commander did something extraordinary. He lowered his head in supplication and asked a human for help. Part 5. The repair of Fleet Commander Kangman took 48 hours. During that time, his warriors watched from their ships, fingers on weapons, ready to unleash destruction if their leader was harmed. But as the hours passed and they received regular updates showing Kangman alive and improving, something changed in the fleet above. Doubt crept into certainty. Questions arose where before there had been only orders. When Kangman finally emerged from the workshop, his scales blazed with renewed light. His bioluminescent markings shone brighter than they had in years. He stood taller, moved easier, and his eyes held a clarity that spoke of more than physical healing. He had seen the truth. The first thing Kangman did was contact the High Council directly. On an open channel that anyone could hear, his voice boomed across communication networks as he spoke words that would change everything. I am Fleet Commander Kangman, and I have been healed by human hands. The High Council has lied to us. They have kept us ignorant of our own nature. They have let us die rather than reveal the truth that we are hybrid beings who need proper maintenance, not just medical treatment. I hereby renounce my position in the Council's service and pledge my support to the Awakened. The response from the Council was swift and predictable. They declared Kangman a traitor. They sent more fleets, more warriors, more attempts to destroy what was happening on the Broken Wing Station. But it was too late. The truth was spreading like fire through dry grass. Kangman was not just any warrior. He was a legend, a hero to millions of Drakari. When he spoke, people listened. When he shared the data recovered from Yuna's core, showing the ancient records of their creation, people could not ignore it. When he invited others to come to the station and see the truth for themselves, they came in waves. The workshop expanded again and again. Hajin trained others in his techniques. Minji developed faster diagnostic systems. Hyunji wrote papers explaining the quantum biological hybrid nature of Drakari physiology in terms anyone could understand. Kyung built specialized equipment for core repair, and Sora, brilliant young Sora, created a simplified maintenance program that any Drakari could learn to perform on themselves. That last innovation changed everything. You see, Hajin explained to a group of newly arrived Drakari, your cores don't need constant professional intervention. They need regular maintenance like any complex system. Once you understand what you are, you can take care of yourselves. No more dependence on council healers. No more dying from ignorance. The High Council tried everything to stop the movement. They blocked communication networks, but the Awakened found other ways to share information. They threatened families, but those families often joined the resistance instead. They tried to isolate systems that supported the Awakened, but more systems declared independence every day. Finally, in an act of desperation, the Council sent their most loyal warriors to destroy the station once and for all. 50 warships, led by the Council's personal guard, arrived with orders to leave nothing standing. Taman stood in the command bay, looking at the overwhelming force displayed on screens. Beside him, Yuna's presence was steady and calm. Kangman had taken position with the other Awakened warriors who now protected the station. But they were outnumbered 5-1. We cannot win this fight, one of the warriors said. We do not have to win, Yuna replied. We just have to survive long enough. Long enough for what? Taman smiled. For the truth to finish spreading. The battle began with the Council fleet firing on the station's shields. Energy weapons lit up space like a dying star. The awakened warriors launched to defend, their ships smaller but faster, their tactics unpredictable. And then something remarkable happened. Ships from the Council's own fleet stopped firing. Not all of them, but some, then more. Communication channels exploded with transmissions as warriors questioned their orders, demanded to know why they were attacking a medical facility, asked if the rumors about the Council's lies were true. One ship captain made his decision public. "I am withdrawing from this fight. I have family who were healed at that station. I will not fire on the people who saved my brother's life." Then another captain spoke, and another. The Council's fleet began to fracture as individual commanders chose conscience over orders. In the end, less than half the original force continued the attack. And when Kangman led the Awakened in a coordinated defense that drove those ships back, the battle ended not with destruction but with defection. 27 ships, fully crewed, joined the Awakened that day. The High Council's power broke like a dam holding back too much pressure. Systems across Drakari space began declaring autonomy. Healers who had been suppressed for suggesting alternative treatments came forward. Engineers who had noticed the quantum mechanical nature of Drakari biology shared their theories. Scientists began studying the ancient data with fresh eyes, and everywhere Drakari began learning to maintain their own cores. The transformation took years, not days. There was resistance from traditionalists who could not accept the truth. There was confusion as an entire species rewrote its understanding of itself. There was conflict as the old power structures fought to maintain control. But change, once begun, could not be stopped. 3 years after Taman carried his dying mate into a human workshop, the galaxy looked different. The Drakari High Council had been dissolved, replaced by a democratic system that valued knowledge over secrecy. Drakari children learned quantum mechanics alongside traditional warrior training. The mortality rate from core degradation dropped by 90% as people learned proper maintenance, and humanity found itself in an unexpected position. The small, supposedly primitive species that everyone had dismissed became the most sought-after ally in known space, not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they possessed something rarer than weapons or technology. They had the ability to see problems without the weight of tradition, to imagine solutions that others could not, and to stubbornly refuse to accept that anything was impossible. The Broken Wing Station, now renamed the Careful Hand, became a symbol of that philosophy. It grew into an institute where multiple species studied together, where biological and technological sciences merged, where impossible problems were solved by teams who refused to accept limitations. And at the heart of it all, Hajin still ran his workshop. The mechanic had been offered high positions, prestigious appointments, and enough money to buy his own planet. He turned them all down. Instead, he stayed in his cluttered bay, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects, doing what he did best, fixing things. On this particular morning, he was underneath another alien machine, muttering to himself while Taman handed him tools. The massive dragon warrior had learned the names of every implement in the workshop, and he worked alongside the human with easy familiarity. Yuna sat with Minji, designing a new diagnostic system for a species that had recently made contact. Do-Hyun taught a class of young Drakari and humans the fundamentals of quantum biological hybrid systems. Kangman served as liaison between the Institute and various governments, his authority and reputation opening doors, and Borum, supervising a cafeteria that now served 20 different species' dietary needs, brought Hajin his usual bitter coffee. "Another impossible job?" she asked, looking at the incomprehensible device he was working on. Hajin rolled out from under the machine, his face smudged with grease, his hair sticking up at odd angles, looking exactly as he had the day Taman first burst through his doors. "Is there any other kind?" he replied with a grin. A new ship appeared on their sensors. Unknown configuration, distress signal broadcasting. The communication came through garbled and desperate. "This is the vessel Distant Hope. We are suffering catastrophic system failures. Our healer says our people are dying from an incurable condition. We heard rumors of a place where miracles happen. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help." Minji pulled up the sensor data. "They are not Drakari, not any species we have encountered before. Their biology is completely unknown." Yunji studied the readings with fascination. "Look at these energy patterns. I think they might be another hybrid species. Different base biology, but similar quantum structures. Hajin stood, wiping his hands on his rag, already moving toward his diagnostic equipment. Well, let's bring them in. Let's see what's broken and figure out how to fix it. Taemin watched the human prepare for another impossible task with the same calm confidence he brought to everything. The dragon warrior thought about how far they had all come from that desperate day, when he crashed through these doors carrying his dying mate. He thought about how one human mechanic, armed with nothing but knowledge and stubborn compassion, had changed the fate of an entire species. How that same human continued to work day after day, fixing impossible things because he refused to accept that anything was truly beyond repair. And Taemin realized something profound. This was humanity's real strength. Not weapons, not technology, not even their vaunted adaptability. It was this: the simple, stubborn belief that everything broken could be fixed, that every problem had a solution, and that no being should be given up on as long as there was any chance at all. The new ship docked. Scared, desperate beings emerged, carrying their sick and dying.